Well, I see the room has filled up, so I think everyone knows who's coming up next. I'm particularly delighted to be able to introduce this next speaker, and I realize I'm wearing sunglasses when I thought they were my regular glasses, so we'll just roll with this. Our panel will dive into the $1 trillion market opportunity for media and entertainment as digital platforms and help facilitate as brands position themselves into the Web3 space and the metaverse overall. Our moderator is Doug Scott, who's the co-founder and chief creative officer of SubNation. In case you don't know what SubNation is, it's a Web3 venture studio focused on culture, gaming, and decentralized lifestyles. They have the good fortune of working with brands like Nike, with NASCAR, with Amazon. They really are one of the best-in-class firms out there, from what I understand. And then also joining us on this fireside chat is Falon Fatemi. If you don't know Falon, she was the youngest ever employee at Google. She was the youngest ever employee at YouTube, so no big deal there for sure. And then she's also been named to a litany of kind of best-in-class lists, including 40 Under 40 in technology. She's also considered a rainmaker by Marie Claire's Top 50 New Guard, so always a pleasure to have her, and I've gotten to know her. She's just she is an unbelievably talented and accomplished and intelligent woman. And then lastly, joining them is probably someone who doesn't need an introduction, but nonetheless, I wouldn't have a job if I didn't get to do this. So Mark Cuban is the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, your favorite shark to be sure on Shark Tank, and co-founder of Fireside along with Falon. He also has Mark Cuban's Cost Plus Drugs, which you haven't looked at. If you haven't looked at, you definitely should. Previously, his company Broadcast.com helped put streaming on the internet. So before we get them on the stage, we'll kick things off with a little bit of a teaser video for you. Let's play that now.
Fireside is the first interactive Web3 streaming platform and the only platform that turns talent, brands, and organizations into the studio networks and streaming services of the future. It's where audiences aren't just consuming content, they're participating in it. Where talent, brands, and organizations own their audience data, relationship, and IP. Where super fans have a level of access they could only dream of. It's where comedy star Adam Waheed is pioneering a new kind of entertainment network where the members will be able to connect and create with him in ways they never have before. Fireside will be the place for him to build his own network and Web3 streaming service. Fireside Web3 is completely consumerized, so no one knows they're even leveraging an NFT. And now major brands and broadcasters are approaching Fireside to power their next-gen streaming. We're taking traditional viewing beyond with the CTV app preloaded on every smart TV. So over 500 million in reach overnight that solidifies our position in the market as shaping the future. Imagine watching a live cook-along show with your favorite chefs simultaneously on your TV and your phone, where you can interact with them in real time and even show them what you're cooking from the palm of your hand. The future of entertainment is building your own empire. The future of entertainment is Fireside.
Well, that certainly looks interesting. So now please welcome to the stage Mark, Doug, and Falon.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Well, first off, thank you for inviting us today to talk about the future of media and entertainment across Web3 and the metaverse. A lot of discussion around Web3, the metaverse. I'm honored here to be with Falon and with Mark. Really, when you think about Broadcast.com, Internet 1.0, and where we are today with Web3 or Web 3.0, a lot has changed. And what I'll say to you is that Web3 is Web 2 is Web 1. It's an enhanced environment. It's new experiences, it's ways to live across digital and physical. And more importantly, it's about empowerment. And what Fireside has developed is the future of media. It is empowering brands, it's empowering creators, it's empowering consumers and viewers to engage in new ways with content, with storytelling, with the talent that they love. And today what we're going to do is learn more about how Fireside is reframing that conversation. Because culture is built off of stories. We seek stories. We go to NBA games for that excitement. So with that, Falon, can you give a little vision as to, or insight into your vision for Fireside when you first started it and approached Mark?
So like you said, we're in a world where every company needs to be a media company because content's not just shaping culture, it's driving commerce. And it's that connective tissue that's really bringing brands and fans together like never before. But today, some of the biggest brands don't have a way to effectively own that relationship with that audience to power that deep customer loyalty as well as collaboration. And so Fireside really as a platform is set up to solve that problem. And so we're the first interactive streaming platform that's really enabling these brands to become the next media empires and really power those next generation fan and customer experiences that are going to lead to the creation of the fan-driven franchises and products of the future. We have over 2 billion of reach of industry-first networks that are launching. These are major brands that we all know and love, as well as IP owners and direct-to-consumer businesses that really see not so much content itself as the way to build a relationship, but more so through the interactivity and connectivity of those customers, be able to have that content be a byproduct of deepening that relationship.
And in terms of the relationship, can you talk a little bit about the tools that Fireside has developed and how those tools are being utilized by brands?
So we have two core product pillars of our platform. The first is what we call our virtual content studio. That's like a power of a production studio on an app on any device. It enables you to create these audio video shows with audiences, also distribute it wherever they live today, whether it's simulcasted to social, streamed, or distributed as a podcast. And what we do is we act as a hook to help bring those audiences from those platforms you do not own today into an environment in which you can now deepen the relationship, bring them through a journey, and ultimately lead to more commerce. On the other side of that, we have the network as a service side. So these are the Web3 enabled memberships that really, for example, from a brand perspective, there's brands out there, like recently I purchased a product from L'Oreal at a pharmacy 3 days ago. L'Oreal has no idea that I actually am a customer. And so they actually don't own that relationship directly with me, but they certainly do have my loyalty. And so now we're enabling brands like them to actually be able to centralize those loyal customers and offer a new sort of membership experience that enables me as a very loyal fan of their products to now be able to sample products before they come on the market, be able to have input over new products that they're creating, be able to now perhaps get casted as a part of the next set of commercials that they're doing. So really enabling them to now deepen that relationship in all these new ways with someone like me that they already I'm a fan of, but they can now take it to that next level and ultimately create those products that are going to be the next big hits for their portfolio.
So Mark, broadcast.com, highly disruptive back in the early days of the internet, really changed the face. And what I would say is, that was the flashpoint that has now taken us into this world of OTT. I mean, even when you look today, right, your vision back then and where we are today, it took 20 years, unfortunately, for old media to recognize what was new. Now with Fireside, you bring in the audience, you bring in that fan, right? How important is fandom as an NBA owner, as an entrepreneur, as the most popular shark, as we heard earlier, with the fans of Shark Tank? How important is fandom in that formula today to media companies?
It's very important. I mean, as Falon was saying, whether it's Shark Tank, we don't know specifically who's watching. Whether it's the Mavericks, we know who's buying tickets because we require them effectively, in most cases, to sign up. But there are different ways to sell online or digitally. Some are just, you look up, whether it's Amazon, you do a search, or even TikTok, you do a search, and that's your discovery. But that is still very difficult to replicate on an ongoing basis. How often am I going to be looking for Mavs tickets, t-shirts, whatever it may be? What really, really sells and what's critical for Fireside and anybody is community. Community is what sells, because the force that drives purchases that is the strongest are your peers. And you may not even know who your peers are. But what Fireside does that's different, it allows broadcasters to be more interactive. And when you say interactive, people kind of roll their eyes because interactive has been around for a while. You could email somebody while you're watching something. You could go online and make a comment. You could tweet, or or go on Instagram or go on TikTok and do a reply video. But it's still just one person at a time. Having to have being able to create a communal effect that drives awareness and leads to purchases is something that Fireside is really good at and really differentiated at. You can type, but more importantly, you can give visceral responses, and you have to use Fireside to see it. But if I'm having this conversation and somebody's listening via YouTube on a web browser or using the Fireside app, and they think I'm funny, then you hit the little smiley, and I hear laughing. And so I know I'm getting a response. And if Kevin, Mr. Wonderful, is talking, and he doesn't hear anything, well, that's a response too. It's an expected response, but it's a response. And so that's the community element that Fireside drives as a platform that isn't readily available anywhere else.
And that really gets us down to the true definition of engagement, right? Which again, like to your point, interactive, overused word, and one-to-one marketing, right? Sergio Zyman, former CMO, talked about one-to-one, for Coca-Cola, talked about one-to-one marketing for years, and there was really never any way to truly know who that individual is.
But you know what, one-to-one marketing is great, but because there's so much AI driving everything between us and a purchase, that it's not as effective as it used to be, right? The community that you build is far more effective. Every kid is a brand. Anybody who has teenagers who's ever tried to take a picture for Instagram with them in it and hasn't been yelled at, you're one lucky parent. I mean, I can't tell you, no, Dad, you cannot post that. I will disown you. You delete that right now, right? Because everybody on social media is a brand. And so how they present themselves, how we all present ourselves is critical. And where Fireside comes in is you don't necessarily have to present yourself fully, right, to become part of that community. You can become part of the community and let the community present you too. And that makes it a little bit safer, a little bit easier, and a little bit more conducive to transacting than trying to always get it right with any one individual. Because, again, on Instagram and then on TikTok, we really make an effort to show who we are. And it's really hard to go one-on-one to try to convert that into a sale.
Got it. So, Falon, in terms of that idea that everyone is a brand, right?
Yeah.
Creators are brands, you're working with major brands. How are you enabling that brand to fan relationship and that dialogue between audience to the point that they're participating in that content?
So I'll give you an example of actually a network that recently launched. It's Tyler Henry's collective. And he's got a global fandom. He's got a Netflix series, an E-series, but he's never toured globally. And his fans are deeply wanting to engage with him, but don't have a great way of doing so beyond some of the social, basic levels of interactivity already mentioned. And so now, through really being able to centralize that fandom into one hub through his collective on Fireside, he is now able to transcend those physical walls of needing to tour in order to reach everybody, and now able to reach that global fandom, but in an intimate way at scale. And so now, instead of paying, they're also still paying $150 to go to his live show when he's in town, but now for that amount, they're able to also, build a relationship with him and connect with him on a far more frequent basis. They get to not just get early access to tickets or new products, but get to be a part of his book club, a part of his celebrity readings, be connecting with him in a variety of ways. He goes live behind the scenes in the green room when he does do his US tours and just connects with his fans. And so it's completely changing that level of intimacy that before was very kind of commoditized and now is taking it to that next level. And together, it's going to evolve into so many other things. And he's really now building that community with the community versus it just being a one-way experience where sometimes he's posting it here and there, and now he's deepening that relationship over time. So what's sort of powering that are a few different aspects. These are consumerized sort of NFT-powered memberships and subscriptions. That's just a part of the infrastructure. To a user, it's just a membership. They never see any of that aspect. But the benefit of that technology is it allows us to deliver on our promise of ownership. If we go away as a platform, these brands are going to own their relationship with their audience through the blockchain. The second piece is something that we've patented that we call token-gated streaming. It's where owners of these networks and creators of content can actually gate individual pieces of content based on levels of access and participation in relation to that membership tier that a user has bought into that they have designed and defined. And the other exciting aspect is the new business models that it does unlock, where phase one of launching a Fireside Network is actually launching the fan club and giving, or the loyalty program, and really giving those super fans that level of access and ownership and exclusivity that they're buying into. That's analogous to a personal seat license model, where you have a limited set of seats in your virtual stadium. I, as a super fan, can own that seat. I can still pay my season pass, rent it, resell it, but those proceeds are then used to actually grow that community in a way that makes sense for that overall brand. So those are all the different aspects that help power that experience. I'll give one more example from an IP owner perspective. So imagine being able to be behind the scenes of production of your favorite shows and have input over, let's say, outfits that are being worn if it's a particular game show and that's very central to it. Or being able to get a unique second screen experience when a new show is premiered and have one of, let's say, the judges from that game show be able to host a watch along, because everyone's on their phone when they're watching television anyway. And then be able to be in the writer's room and now have input over the new franchises and plot lines that are being created. I mean, that's a level of access that's a dream for many people, and is really the future of content as well, where fans are really shaping, the future franchises that are being created.
So that really takes us into this topic of today, which is this $1 trillion business opportunity around Web3 and the metaverse. And the idea, again, Mark, going back to you, broadcast.com tethered to a PC in my bedroom. Web3, mobile phone. It's all about mobile. It's all about the content, the community, the commerce that sits inside this device. And my view is, look, Steve Jobs did two things to us. One is he Pavloved us. Every time we get an alert on our phone, what do? We slide, we tap, we consume. Pavlov's dog, behavioral economics, right? And you can trigger somebody to want to buy something or to buy something based on, to your point, the influence and the community that's there, where I'm watching Shark Tank and I really like that Scrub Daddy, and what am I gonna do? I'm gonna buy the Scrub Daddy, right? And instant gratification, which is the second thing, is he removed the friction for commerce. When you look at the tools that Fireside's providing and the way in which we engage with content, how content really drives commerce, right? And then even more so when I'm at a Mavs game, right? And I have my phone there and I'm getting enhanced content from the floor. Aren't I going deeper with my fandom? You're getting data, I understand the beer consumption, right. I understand.
Yeah, it just depends, right? Because attachment obviously sells. The more attached you are to a product, a brand, an individual, a community, the more you want people around you to know about that attachment. Because as brands, again, we want to tell people the brands we like, and we avoid the brands that we don't like. And so in terms of Web3, it's just a dumb term. I mean, it really, really is. I hate, didn't get a lot of response there, but it is. And it gives some clarification from Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, but Web 3 people think metaverse. Everything's the metaverse. Nothing's the metaverse. And what you get from Facebook in VR goggles is going to be different than what you get via phone, right? So in terms of how we build communities to leverage, that's what's critical. And where the technology takes us from there, that's what's critical. Yeah. I don't think we've seen the final destination in terms of digital communities yet. Because there's a lot of work to be done in terms of relative standing within the community.
Sure.
Right, because when people get together, you go back to Second Life, you go back to all the early, on digital communities, it always comes down to 50 or 100 or 1,000 people that just dominate it and force everybody else out. And the same thing happens with metaverse now. With Fireside, it's more driven by, I don't want to say by the brand, by the influencer, by the person behind it and the community they build. And we create the tools for them that make that community, that allow them to make that community stronger. And that's the key, because when you hear, okay, you know, so-and-so is going into the metaverse, and then you realize, okay, they're playing poker, some 7-card stud, and that's it. And there's nobody else there. And, you know, you try to get some community, and yeah, there's some people dressed as dogs and puppies, and, you know, they're connecting, and that's all great, nothing wrong with that. But how do you get to scale? And by aggregating all these different communities and letting the communities speak and connect for themselves, that's how you get to scale. By trying to have one broad metaverse, and it's going to fail, because you can't connect them. There's no, you know, TCP/IP. There's no, you know, layers of networking that gives some commonality to allow everybody to connect, and so it's going to be near impossible. So again, by having a platform, that's why I got so excited, or one of the reasons I got so excited about Fireside. When you have a platform that is modifiable, adaptable, you can try things as a brand, from commerce to community, and then by aggregating, you get a lot further. There's a reason why TikTok is done so well, because people go to TikTok. You know, you don't hear people go to Charlie, I'm going to Charlie Amelio, right? They go to TikTok, they've aggregated, right? And so they enjoy certain brands, and then the algorithm takes it from there. Fireside gives the brands the chance to take more control while building community, and I think that's critically important, and I think it's also why the metaverse is going to be a great future technology. The metaverse is about 5 years away from being 5 years away, and it always will be 5 years away from being 5 years away.
There's the quote of the
true.
day right there.
I mean, there's also a lot of we tried to go in the metaverse. Remember that time? And it took the browser down.
Yeah.
Like, it just couldn't even handle it. So the technology is getting there, but not for a while.
Falon, in terms of the community aspect of it, and really Fireside, you know, off of that, can you talk a little bit about the shoppable commerce and kind of where you're heading there? Because every brand, every creator, I mean, you look at Mr. Beast, right?
Yeah.
I went out there, he popped up 1,800 burger stores overnight, and, you know, I mean, it was larger than McDonald's for a moment, and everybody just rushed to it. It's a social moment, it's a cultural moment, right? There's scarcity there, and you want to be in it, especially from a look at me to my social friends. I got one of those.
Mr. Beast?
Yeah,
Oh,
Mr.
yeah,
Beast.
Mr. Beast, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, and the shoppability of where Fireside is headed is a large part of your business model in terms of that engagement.
I mean, what we're really talking about is just building a franchise, right? So you've now built the community. You know, you're now deepening the relationship. Maybe you're selling some merch, and now you start to look at, well, what else does my audience want? What are other opportunities to build out more of the franchise and the commerce aspect too? You know, and the way that we look at it is that it's just a marketplace that's overlaid on top of the actual, you know, interactive and consumption experience, where I could, you know, watch that chef cook a recipe from that cookbook. I can buy his cookbook in one tap. I could, you know, bid on a membership for his network. I can, you know, make it really easy to engage in commerce. I mean, we're already on our phone. How many people are on their phones when they're watching anything on their television or streaming platform? I mean, oh, there we go, right? We all are. I mean, that's where the majority of commerce gets done, on your phone while you're watching something. And so really just making that far more seamless, especially with this paradigm of participatory entertainment, it's just another aspect of leaning in and deepening that relationship. And as a fan, that's what I want.
Right. And then for the brand, the creator, that you're working with them as well in terms of the data feed and helping them really understand the metrics of their audience. Mark, to your point earlier with Mr. Wonderful, right, and seeing nothing, right?
Yeah.
The minute you know that nothing is happening with your audience,
But you know it in real
you can
time
adjust.
too. So you know it in real time. So, you know, imagine if QVC was on Fireside. You know, QVC looks to see when the phones ring, and they look at their dollars per minute, right? And that's how you judge you coming back. But there's no real time, okay, what's the feel?
Yeah.
When Falon talks about being participatory, you get to respond immediately to what you're seeing or hearing, and that gives feedback to the presenter immediately. And so that's different. You know, the best example is if you're a comedian and you're doing a podcast or you're doing a live stream, you have no idea if anybody's laughing. Maybe what ends up happening is, and we've seen this with live Instagram, live YouTube, everybody's always looking at the comments. Well, what are you saying? What's going on there? And that kind of takes away from the flow of what you're doing. Whereas with Fireside, literally download the Fireside app and you'll see when you watch something, you can hit the smiley face, you can hit a variety of different buttons, and that gives immediate feedback to the content presenter or creator. And that's something that's incredibly unique, and you can play off of that just like, in a live auditorium. When I said something about the metaverse and nobody responded, that's a response.
Yeah.
But if I was doing this on a live stream, I'd have no idea whether anybody said anything or didn't say anything. And that is critical to content creators.
Yeah.
Really also is an opportunity from a gamification standpoint in terms of how
for sure.
young people are engaging with content, right, with the smiley faces, right, and other things, which then leads us into loyalty. I mean, Starbucks recently shifted their entire loyalty program into a on-chain loyalty program, right? Nike has recently launched .swoosh with their Web3, dare I say, platform, right? And you see more brands moving into loyalty that is on-chain, that is tradable. I have to assume that that's also a large part of community building for you, is how does the fan get rewarded for not only their engagement with the show, but then also promoting the show to their community.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a self-fulfilling, if you will, network effect.
Yeah, the flywheel. Yeah, so I mean, this is exactly the kind of analytics that we are also providing to all of our network partners. They're able to understand, which of their, whether it's members or people are at different levels of the fandom, they're able to actually get insight on how they're reacting and contributing or driving tune-in or driving revenue at all those different levels and on a per content level too. And then they can also gate the levels of participation to maybe convert some of those less engaged people for certain pieces of content or for certain experiences, I should say, and for others, maybe reward them with additional benefits. So, I mean, but it all comes down to having the data to do it, and we uniquely are positioned to do that because we understand people are reacting to the content, to those experiences as it's also being recorded live. And those insights don't just inform what to create next or the conversations and discussions to have, but it also informs, product creation and gamification and benefit in experience, creation.
And then over time, as we get into, dare I say, AI or better intelligence, that which I respond to, I'm now going to get something back that's more personalized for me based on my response, which is going to take me deeper down that awareness to action or transaction funnel and increasing the results, the sales results, the amount of time I watch.
Yeah. What happens with ChatGPT and large learning models is going to be insane, right? Because we call it as if there's one model there. There's going to be unlimited models, and what feeds it is going to be critical. And the latency, how soon is the information updated, so and there's just so many elements that are involved. There's going to be, shows and media related to ChatGPT and how to ask questions, and there'll be so many opportunities there for us because anything that benefits from better connectivity with a user is going to benefit from Fireside. But yeah, it's going to be a wild, wild west over the next 10 years because what we're seeing with ChatGPT 3.5, there's going to be 10 different competitors. They're all going to say they're smarter. None of them will be. All the ChatGPTs will start talking to each other and ripping on each other. ChatGPT will start his own Twitter, and then GPT Elon will buy it. It's going to be a shit show.
Will we see an NBA coach that is a ChatGPT enabled coach?
Yeah, I mean, look, I went into ChatGPT and I said, write some code for me that'll input all my emails from Gmail and update the model. And I don't have access to the model to do it yet, but it handed me the code. And so it's going to be, okay, read all my emails and respond for me. And I'm going to love it.
So let's throw the word metaverse out, the word Web3 out, okay? It's about connected experiences, right? It's about the physical and digital connected experience. changing the media landscape. I mean, you just played out this whole chat GPT scenario, but in all seriousness, in the next 12 to 18 months, despite the current conditions of the market, where we're at, right, we're going to see some significant disruption take place with technology and how people engage with brands, engage with experiences, engage with sports, engage with media. You know, Falon, what are you most excited about with Fireside, with the brands that are coming on board, the creators that are coming on board, and what you're seeing with consumers in terms of that connected experience?
I mean, I'm excited to see, you know, not just turning these brands into their, you know, own media empires, but I'm excited to see what comes from the connected experiences, because, you know, we're just scratching the surface on what those benefits and memberships are today, but really the communities and those brands are going to take it to that next level. And we're going to see new products being created together with those communities. We're going to see entire new franchises being born from it. And I think that's really exciting, because ultimately, you know, that's what the future is going to be.
Mark, outside of that email bot that I can't wait to utilize in an open source environment, what are your thoughts?
You know, it's interesting. We're seeing a big change in how we perceive and use and what we expect from social media. We're looking at TikTok potentially being banned because of the connections to China. We're seeing what's happening with Twitter, and some people like it, some people don't, but it's definitely evolved. Some for the better, some for the worse, again, depending on your position. You know, Instagram and Facebook continue to evolve, and I don't think they know what they want to be when they grow up.
Yep.
And so there's an opportunity for a new realm of social media and a new realm of communications that I hope and I think Fireside has a chance to fulfill. But I think within the next 2 years, you're going to start. I'm hoping. I think there'll be a new form of social media that starts to peep its head up, that starts to get some traction, because we're tired of the media that we use for our lives having the personality of the people or country that controls it.
Yep.
And I think that's a real downside that somebody will be innovative enough, and hopefully it's us, to overcome.
Amazing. Well, I'm looking forward to that. I'm told we're out of time. I want to thank Falon and Mark
guys.
for engaging conversation, and all of you.